And officially welcome everyone to the February 2024 Evergreen Cataloging Interest Group meeting. And I am Jennifer Weston, facilitator of this fine group. On behalf of the organizing committee, whose names are listed at the top of the agenda as always, we welcome you. And I just personally going to say we haven't gotten together since November. And so I am very, very glad to see those of you that are here today and anybody watching the recording say that we've missed you very much. I'm glad to be back together. And one of the reasons today I thought we would just chat instead of having a formal presentation because potentially a lot has happened since November. I know December we purposely took off, and then January things just got busy, but I didn't want another month to go by, even though we didn't have a formal presentation. So I thought we always find things to talk about. I want to see what's going on in your libraries, what's going on in the community, and then have some discussion about the kinds of things that you want to talk about in this group this year. While we always have a long list of things to present on, we want to make sure they're the things that you want to talk about. So let's look at that, and then we can, I guess I'll just get started here with the agenda and then open it up because we'll have lots of time for discussion. And if on the rare occasion we as catalogers don't have anything to talk about, we'll just end early. Just a few updates in general, as we always do. Here at the top, you'll find not a lot has changed on the wiki if you've checked it out lately. Again, I'm always looking for people that want to help update that and to provide ideas of things that you would like to add to the wiki. So again, I'll put that call out there. If anybody's interested in working on the wiki, please let me know. And then we've got updates to release notes. There have been quite a few releases since we got together in November. The release community has been very busy, including the release team for 3.12. Several of you are here today, so thank you very much for that. I do have links to the most recent versions there. So 3.12.1, 3.11.3, and 3.10.4. The most recent releases came out last week, I believe, Monday or Tuesday last week. I will say that the tabular release notes are not up to date, not as if you couldn't click on that and discover that yourself, but I will get them updated this month. 3.11 is there, not the most recent 3.11, but some 3.11. So I need to add 3.12, and I think it's important to keep those updated. And as I am promising to do that by the end of the month, I will also say this is one of those things that we took on as a community, but that I've been doing for quite a while. If there's anybody else that's interested in helping with that, I would appreciate that so that we can have them done in a more timely manner. I will continue as a community to make sure that we do that, that our interest group owns this responsibility. But again, if anybody is interested in sharing in that, even just the point releases would be helpful as they come out, and I can talk about how those are done. Essentially, I just link, if we look at them, you can just link over to the individual bug and then very short descriptions and categorized. But again, up through 3.11 is there, and 3.12 will be added soon. And speaking of 3.12, the community demo servers or server, you now have a 3.12 server out there. If you're not yet on 3.12, as many of you are not, of course, you have a demo server if you want to just play around with that one to see some of the new features that have been released. Before I continue too far on beyond just talking about releases, I know that, like I said, several of you are here. Andrea, you're here. And let's see, Andrea, Jane, hello, Jane. Jane Sandberg is here. Let me see if anybody else is here from the release team. If I'm missing anybody, please let me know. Gary's here. Any of you want to say anything about 3.12 and how that's going and the kinds of things that we should be celebrating? We should be celebrating all the things.
Well, I think it's just a really nice release with a lot of stuff in it. It doesn't have a lot of like humongous big changes, but it has a lot of smaller changes that either make the project easier to manage or improve the experience for users or are accessibility related.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point we were looking at Launchpad and seeing like how many different changes were included in 3.12,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more changes than any release since 3.0.
Wow,
Exciting.
it really is. Oh, that's great. Any most since 3.0, and I'll know what that means when I come back and update my notes. And just go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, to second what Jane said, there's a bunch of, things that make accessibility better, and development for accessibility easier as well with some new developer tools, lint rules, and stuff like that. There is a new um, added content for novelist view that CW Mars sponsored. That's pretty cool. So if you have novelists, you can now see that in the staff catalog natively without having to go outside into the OPAC. So that's restoring a feature of the old staff client. It's now available in Angular. And I think the thing that I'm the most proud of about this release, actually, and it's something that I keep trying to talk about, not to scare people, but just to say how proud I am of the group that came together to build this release. Because a lot of us, including me, um, it was kind of the first time we'd done this. We definitely had guidance from more experienced community members, but it was a really important release for teaching a lot of people that process. And as we went along, we were a lot of times updating the release documentation, which previously lived in a lot of different brains. But, as we figured something out, we'd update the documentation, so hopefully that makes it easier on future release teams. But I'm really proud of like the people that kind of took a risk and stepped outside their comfort zone to make this possible. So
And I'm trying to capture all the notes that are in chat now. One point of clarification, CW Mars did the staff view tab. Noble did the novelist tab.
sorry. Yes, I apologize.
That's fine.
I'm mixing them up.
I am going to drop that in there too. So if you haven't seen the release yet with the staff view tab on there, also we're celebrating. Let's see, a couple of notes from Taryn. Favorite thing about 312 is the ability to print selected rows from a grid. Amen. And whole pull list filters are nice if you're pulling lists from multiple libraries and you want to be able to choose just one. Jonathan says the new patron view looks pretty nice. Yep, I noticed when checking to make sure subjects were showing up correctly. Yeah, so there's an absolute use case about how you would actually use that patron view. So that's lovely. Emma, we just updated 311, but 312 sounds awesome. It does indeed. And Taryn, you're upgrading to 312 this weekend. Woohoo! You've been testing for the past month and it's looking good. That's fantastic. Okay. And just kudos to the release team there. They're in there. So thanks for those updates. I will say, as I was going through some of the outstanding bugs that are specifically related to cataloging, quite a few of them have been addressed. And I've got a note here further down to talk about even the staff blocker ones. Yeah, and let's get staff view. Okay, I am once again for record making a note from chat that staff view came out in 311. So if you already have 311, you already have the privilege of seeing the staff view.
Yeah, I was just crossing wires on my different staff catalog tabs. And my different staff catalog tabs sponsored by Massachusetts Area Consortia. That was my bad. Sorry.
We've got it updated to the documentation. At the end of all this, that just means we want to say thank you to Noble and to CW Mars for sponsoring these very beneficial views in the staff interface so that we can have them natively embedded there without having to toggle back and forth just to be able to see a particular piece of what our patrons are seeing. Okay, I'm going to record. I should say that in our recordings, our chat notes don't always get published. I think I'm going to start as a best practice this year, making sure that I also just link out to the chat notes onto our agendas as well. So I'll make myself a note here to do that. Sometimes we just copy a lot of them into the notes, but now I'll make sure that we can link directly to them. So continuing things we're celebrating, the conference is coming up in April. And let me say, you delivered this year, Cataloging Community, for quite a few great presentations. In fact, if we take a look here, I was going to do this a little later, we might as well check out the schedule. If there are any of these you want to talk about, we certainly can. One of the things I'd like to do is revisit them after the conference to see if we can expand upon some of them. But even just starting here, we've got the Acquisitions Bootcamp, which Ruth is going to take on, but in collaboration with Samantha O'Connor from NC Cardinal. So, that's related to cataloging. A couple of others as we go through here. Evergreen's Guide to Permissions, also related to cataloging. If you haven't sat in on the permissions user group, and I sadly don't have time to do that very often, but they're making a lot of progress there on defining what's going on with permissions. And then we have, and I have to say, there's a takeoff on our usual and well celebrated. Let me go down the bottom here. Where are you? Your batches, baskets, buckets, and book bags, Elizabeth. The alliteration is catching on.
I
So
know
not
it confused me.
yes. And I thought, okay, somebody else is trying to do Elizabeth's presentation. I don't think so. So Elizabeth will be doing batches, baskets, buckets, and book bags. Now you're testing me on the rhyming here. But also there will be bins and bags and boxes, which should be followed by oh my. But that's actually a resource sharing infrastructure.
Right.
Schedule is going to be not Elizabeth, so attend the right one for depending on what you're expecting to see there. I do want to highlight this one just because I don't have a lot of information, but what I would like to do is this, I'll have what Mark's having. Let's look at the description on that one. It's Bill Erickson, and he's asking for input. I think we should invite him to join one of our meetings. He says at King County, they've developed a regex-based Mark search and replace interface that he's going to demo, discuss what it takes to implement, maybe take some requests. So this whole search and replace interface, I'm envisioning is something much like, what we can do with MarcEdit. Well, inside, not MarcEdit, Terry Reese, MarcEdit, but being able to edit Mark within Evergreen. I'm envisioning that this is something that he's expanded beyond that, just with the regex space there. So I don't know. Let me get your thoughts. Is this something that you would be interested in bringing him to one of our future meetings to talk about? Have any of you seen that? I guess I should ask if any of you are here from King County. I look at how many of you are here. Ooh. Trisha, yes, I'm interested. Okay. See, I'm thinking because he's got 30 minutes, and I kept saying 30 minutes is really not that long when you get catalogers starting to ask him questions and to demo it. So I think maybe we can see how quickly he might want to visit us, maybe in March. If not, we'll bring him in after the conference in April, because while not all of us who can and would want to attend that session will be able to, I imagine we can provide quite a bit of feedback.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Jennifer, who in this group is familiar with regular expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Or if their level of familiarity is like mine, which is like, yes, those are expressions that are regular, and I know that they exist. I do not know how to write them or read them, but I know what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I don't know if there's a baseline that needs,
True. And we can
if you're all banging at regular expressions, great, but that's might be something to get a sense of before we invite Bill, just so he knows what to expect.
True. So let's I know that some of us have talked about doing a regular expressions program as part of this. So let me put that down here under our new discussions notes. I would like to see what he's doing if it's to make regular expressions more accessible is the wrong word, but make them easier to use. It's the afternoon. I'll use simple language, but regular expressions in general. But we'll kind of see what he's got going on there. So. And replace tool. Okay. Yeah, let's see how much we can talk about there. Gary says you'd have to refer to some type of reference source type every time I use them. Gary, I agree completely. While I've used them, I always have to bring out my notes to remind myself how to get started most days. And if we could just even start with 2 or 3 of that would be most useful as an example, and put together those examples might be a good place to go with that too, now that I'm thinking and talking at the same time. So yeah, let's consider that. And I need to move my tools out of the way there. Back to the conference schedule then. And again, that just being a 30-minute one, we can see if maybe we just even break that into a 2-part thing. Let's talk about regular expressions and then kind of see what he's got going on there with a new tool. As a reminder, all of these programs will be recorded. So if you can't make a particular session or even the conference at all, you'll be able to review them later. Jessica's going to be talking about authorities. Woohoo! To the authorities working group. We have not scheduled anything yet for this year. We will schedule something before the conference. So Maggie and others, trying to see who else is here. Sorry, I might be missing some others that are on there. So look for a message from me so we can get that scheduled, and then we will send a note out so that we can get together before then. But thanks to Jessica for taking that on. Hi, Carol. Yes, we definitely need you there too. So we'll find a time that works for us in the next month. Then we have several Aspen programs. We have series, serials, pieces, and parts. Again, Elizabeth, you're following your own alliteration precedents there. This is a pickup on monograph parts and how to use them, among other things there. So thank you to Elizabeth and Carol for taking that on for the community. Several more accessibility things that are going on, which is a huge topic and one we are very glad to be seeing get so much attention. Liz from Missouri Evergreen is going to be talking about their consortium cataloging training program they've put together and how that's evolving. And you can look over all these descriptions later. One thing that I'm not sure we've talked about and celebrated as a group is Terry Reese is going to be joining us to talk MarcEdit. So he will be there doing an overview of MarcEdit and then providing some guidance there on how to make use of it, how to make the most successful use of it. So we're thrilled that he's agreed to join us. So hooray, this is something we've wanted for several years, and he agreed to do that as an invited guest this time. He's not a keynote speaker because I guess not everybody's interested in MarcEdit. I don't know. As a catalog, we're going to, of course, everybody that would attend the conference would be interested in MarcEdit. But he's there. I know. This is cool. So we will celebrate and we'll find a way to recognize him appropriately for agreeing to join us. And then continuing on there, Ruth and Andrea will be doing their regular new features in 311 plus. So it's always a great time. And we've talked about bashes, baskets, buckets, and book bags. I almost made it through without stumbling again, Elizabeth. And then we'll wrap up at the end of the day. Here we've got some updates on NC Cardinal, how they've been modifying lots of MARC records in an automated way. If you would look for an intro to Git, which is something that if we want to get involved in the community and doing things like even the documentation interest group, that sort of thing, works a little bit with Git. Michelle's going to do a nice introduction. And then again, we have another Aspen presentation there, Aspen being the discovery layer. So you'll have a couple of opportunities to find out how that's being used. And then lastly, our interest group will meet on the Thursday this year, the conference, which is during the Hack Fest. That schedule hasn't come out yet. See you, Elizabeth. It was nice to see you. So I'll put the schedule out there, but we'll meet again in March and we'll talk about the Hack Fest specifically. And in one sense, I'm glad that we're meeting during the Hack Fest. That means you don't have to register, you don't have to pay to attend the interest group in April. So Hack Fest will be free to everyone. So I did want to cover some of those. And again, say thank you to everybody who submitted projects. There were so many that Catherine and I were going to do one on how to customize Evergreen for your own experience, all those little things that we can do that are saved locally and preferences. And there wasn't enough space for everything. So she and I are going to pick that up and do a program later in the year, if not at Hackfest. So we're going to work that out, but it'll probably be after April about just all the new things that have come along in the last few releases that allow us to save things locally to customize. Maggie asked, will be an authorities group for Hackfest or just the cataloging group? That's one thing we can talk about, Maggie, when you and Carol and the rest of the group get together and decide what we would want to do during Hackfest. We certainly can take the opportunity to have time together as an authorities group, decide what we would want to do during that. So to be determined. So we'll come back to that. And hopefully this time next month when we get together, we'll have that answer and have an outline of what that would look like. Again, we're not tied to just being during Hackfest. We don't have time set aside for an all-day thing, and we could potentially do it for a half day. We would have an option for that, depending on how the rest of the scheduling is going. And again, we'll talk about this in the authorities working group if we want to even plan a future one that's not tied exactly the same time as the conference. We can do that. Okay, I'm scrolling too much. Let me scroll back to the top now. Okay, so there's the conference. As a reminder, early bird registration ends March 1st. And I did cover our interest groups will be meeting during Hackfest. Now's the time where we normally ask, has anybody upgraded lately? But has anybody upgraded since November that we need to get on the record what version you're working on now? I should say you should all have access. If you have a link to this agenda, you should all have access to be able to edit, so you can edit yourselves if you want. Where you're going, so I won't take time and call you all out as if it was roll call. But if there's anything particular you want to highlight or to celebrate, please do. Otherwise, you're welcome to just make changes directly on this document. Mary, you just upgraded this past weekend. I would ask how it's going, but it's just Tuesday. And Emma, you upgraded to 311.2 in January. So Evergreen, Indiana, let's get you on there. Evergreen, Indiana, where are my eyes going? There you are. So you are now on 311.2. Mary, your libraries are closed for snow today. So things are going well then since your upgrade. That's what I'm hearing. Anybody else? Oh, quiet so far. That's what I like to hear after an upgrade, right? I'll give you another minute or two before I. Kitten, you upgraded 311 in December. Okay. So bibliomation, let me get Mary noted here. So you upgraded to 3. Mary, what did you upgrade to? And Kenton, you are now on 311 in December. You did indeed do just what you said you were going to do. Upgraded to 311 in December, 311.2. And that's where you are, Mary. Okay. Well, if anybody sees anything else they want to share, let us know. And keep making changes there. So 311 is where most people have been going to since the last time we talked, I believe. And making plans to go to 311, and 312 is still so new. Okay. Which will give us context as we're looking at bugs. And I can just hop on to talk about all the other interest groups. I believe the schedule's right here. I looked at the community calendar to just pull the next meetings. I think I have everything listed here. I don't have anything in particular as far as updates or announcements from any of the groups to highlight. Only I do want to say out of all these groups, the one thing that has kind of been an inactive group for quite a while has been the Student Success Group. And Jennifer Pringle is interested in reconvening that group. She's going to have a session during HackFest for anybody that's interested in the student success. So, to reorganize. Any updates from any of the others that you want to highlight? Representatives from any of those others while we're here? I'll make a note, the bib frame, there is truly an intention to reconvene that group this year. Those announcements will go out to the general listserv, the general cataloging listserv. Authorities, we just said we will announce soon. Should watch for bug squashing feedback fest coming later this spring. Well, are we still in the winter? I don't know, February or March. Okay, anything else there? All right. So then skipping ahead, Launchpad bugs are the usual links. Did want to say that we're closely watching these staff catalog blockers. These are the ones that say there are bugs that without workarounds outside the traditional catalog. Then these are the ones we've identified that if we lost the traditional catalog, we wouldn't be able to have our workarounds. So we're down to 10. Previously, we were at 12. We had the facets fix was released in 311.2 and 312. I am maintaining the staff catalog blocker, which I updated this morning about all the others. There is some work going on quite a few of these. The other one that we went down from 12 to 10 is one it was closed because it was partially resolved. This was the hold status sorting. And there's a second bug that's been opened for that. And I'm looking at Taryn's note here. They're just thinking today you need to schedule the next bug squashing week. Yes, it's February. I keep reminding myself of that. And others remind me of that all the time. But yeah, so we'll look for bug squashing week. The staff catalog blocker without spending a lot of time, but just to say that these are the original 12 that we had identified as blocker. And so you'll see as I'm looking at it, some rather obnoxious red that is on that screen. But several of these have pull requests that have been added. Pels has contracted to do some dev work on that first, the copy location group filtering. Several of these have pull requests. So there's another there. The Angular catalog serials menu does include quick receive, so that's coming back. Anything that has pull request just means it needs to be tested. And here's that one that I said it's no longer in our count because it was partially fixed. And there's a follow-up bug. And then there's another that's there for testing. And I highlight this just to show you that there is a place on the wiki that you can go to get updates on each of these, of what the original 12 blockers. So progress is being made. Andrew says you're working on a spec that includes the standalone holdings template editor. That's fantastic news. I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Remember how we lost the standalone holding? Well, we didn't lose it. It's just no longer in sync, the standalone holdings template. So you can do your holdings templates through, the holdings mark editor, if you're making
It's in
changes.
Angular JS, the standalone one.
It is. Is that the reason they're
That's
out of
why,
sync?
hence the breakage.
Yes. I'm not going to say asynchronous because that doesn't sound exactly like what I wanted to say. They no longer talk to one another successfully. I should say successfully. So that's great news. We'll look for more information on that one soon. All right. So here's the point where I stop talking and ask you what you want to talk about. Any particular launchpad bugs we want to cover? I am going to make the note that about Andrew's working on that. And then things that you would want to see as a group. We are working on, so I'll make that say Equinox. I brought over notes from one of our last meetings in 2023 of things that we thought we'd talk about. One was just a Launchpad review session because we don't always take time to do those during our formal sessions when we have programs. And then also one of the last things we looked at were reports at the end of last year. And we said that we may plan a work session during a monthly meeting just to look at expanding this conversation about reports as we start looking at the angularization of the traditional reporter. So as we're starting to get the traditional reporter come out in an Angular view, not only do we need to test it, but just kind of put it through the paces of what kinds of experience we can expect. Let's see what Andrea's notes are in chat. We're still talking about the spec as part of a larger item alerts project sponsored by CW Mars. And this time she means it about CW Mars. Item alerts in templates. Okay. So this is the standalone holdings template editor is included, and I'm going to say this with all the right words in the right order, is included as part of a larger item alerts in templates project.
Right. The main thrust of the project is restoring the ability to do things with item alerts in templates. But as part of that, we will be angularizing or we will be proposing to angularize the standalone holdings template editor as well. And Carol will be delivering that spec probably this week for you. We're just putting the final touches on it. So,
okay.
Anyway, yes,
great.
Well, not sure where my brain is.
I'll be involved, but it's not. I mean, Joan will probably be the one.
Well, you can tip Joan off. She'll be seeing it through. There's a lot of item alerts things flying around in my head. I can't keep them straight.
That's because there are a lot of item alerts requests for things to be done. All right, Sharon, alternate uses for booking. I like that a lot. Are you using it currently, Sharon, or are you just looking for creative ways to do so? Okay. Oh, I would love to do that. I think that's probably one of my favorite things to do is find ways to use modules that weren't intended for that purpose, but like, hey, I can use it for this reason instead. I don't think I intentionally do that, but I think just quite naturally. Andrew says she'd love to give booking a rethink implementation wise. If anybody wants to talk about funding that, we can look at it. Look at current and wish list ideas that would then perhaps lead to funding. How about that? Talked about at one point just revisiting the holdings editor. I think work on that has calmed down a bit. Calm's not the right word, but for a while we were going through a lot of changes with the holdings editor and we were reviewing it a lot. Thought about maybe reviewing it again just to see what the current status is on the holdings editor and see if there are bugs that are still out there or quality of life improvements we're looking for the holdings editor or really on any of that workflow. But where we are now. I'm going to add authorities just because the authorities group will get back together. Authorities working group update. Any other ideas, things that you'd like to? Oh, great. Yeah, thank you, Emma. Says you'd love info on the authorities group. Yeah, so it's time to do an update. Where we are and where we're going, where we need, what else we can do. Fabulous. Any particular bugs that have been uncovered with 311 or anything newer that we want to highlight or we feel like needs discussion? This is a good time to add those to the list too. I found there was one that there was a fix in 312 for anybody that's looking at that. Maybe you're not there yet, but um, when you deleted a bib record, the summary went away at the top. You know how you can still see the bib record, but the summary went away completely. But there's been a fix for that since then. I want to celebrate that fix because it made my eye twitch a lot when you can no longer see the summary on the bib record. I'm trying to see the names that are here to see if, and sometimes we'll do Launchpad, just, working in Launchpad presentations. I feel like most everybody that's here today has seen that. I'd be curious if there's interest in doing that sort of thing again. Not seeing. That's great because I feel like Jonathan, anyone else ever get thinking about how AI could be used to make cataloging easier, better, or just Evergreen in general? Interesting, Jonathan. I was having that very conversation earlier today with the resolution that, humans still do it better. But as far as making it easier, yeah, let's put it on the list. Have you seen the AI where it's being used for finding library classifications? That one's also assigning whether it's your Dewey or your Library of Congress number. Let's see if they can do authorities. I'm just being snarky now. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's put that on there and just see what's happening out in the world. It's a very good one. Anything else? Even wish list ideas or things that we want to look at. I am thinking, looking back through some of our last things that we've talked about, we covered monograph parts. We will talk about authorities. At one point, we were talking about editing in Evergreen, the Mark Edit utility there. So we can revisit that in connection with what's going on with the lyrics and stuff there. I know we're getting a lot of questions in the community about authorities. I've also seen a few about things like just your basic importing workflow if you're doing batch importing of records, but how to make that a little easier. And working with some of our vendors, providers of records. and doing things like, ooh, I like this one. We can do stat cats. You can add stat cats for batch imports. You can define them that way too. We could talk about stat cats, creative ways of using stat cats. I'm going to say and warnings. In this case, I'm talking about reporting. Which you can't do, and I guess I shouldn't leave that there. So reporting with conditional stat cats. You can't say if this stat cat is set to true, then report on this stat cat, that sort of thing. So that's what my warning is there. Okay, well, we're quiet. I'm not going to keep it. I think give anybody else what they want to get on the record before the conference that we want to talk about at Hackfest, or anything that we want to talk about as a group about any of the existing bugs. We can do that through the listserv. One thing I would like to do before the conference, I'm trying to think, sorry, is I would like to get a sense of, I kind of know just from your names where everybody's located. There are a few of you that I might have to follow up on, but I'd like to put together a map of where we are. And this is just a kind of a visualization of the cataloging community. That's just a fun project to do before then. So I would like that very much. So I'm just going to throw that down here. So I think somebody did a presentation on mapping that I can use to do this. But anyway, let's do a map of the cataloging community. Let's see what else we have here. Andrea, stand by for new MARC editor. Stand by for new MARC editor for community testing. That will be something we'll definitely need to get involved in. See if I can copy that. Patricia loves the map idea. Good, we'll do a map. I'll send it out to community and get us started. And we will unveil it at the conference. We're not in person, so we can't wear well, we could, but nobody will see them, but wear our badges this year. Jen asked a question. Does anyone have authority set up so a subject search will find what's in the 450 fields? You search heart attack, will a subject search find records where the subject is myocardial infarction? Find out what happened to cross references. Let's put that. Janet, I don't think so. I don't think cross references.
The latest version of Did You Mean should be able to do in-class corrections based on authority data. So if there is a cross-reference in the authority record that is labeled heart attacks, it should give you a search suggestion for myocardial infarction.
But it wouldn't return that in the results. It would just suggest it as an alternative search term, right?
Correct.
What version was that?
Yeah, I'm just capturing this here, which is not suggest the other term. Did I capture that correctly?
Oh, did you mean?
Currently, did you mean would return results but not suggest the other term? It would just give you the...
No.
No.
It would, the other way around. It would suggest the other term instead of automatically returning results. It would say, did you mean myocardial infarction, which you could click and then
Got it.
get results.
So I get for typing.
But that's going to also intersect with how you've got like the various sensitivity thresholds of that. So if you search for heart attack as a keyword and you get a lot of results, it may not trigger the threshold for a suggestion. You know what I mean? Like, because that's part of did you mean. If you end up with depending on how you have it set up, if you end up with a high result count, it might not suggest alternatives. It can, depending on, how you've got that configured, but it's
Well, when I search keyword for heart attack, I get a lot of fiction
Mm.
before I even get to a record that's for a medical book.
Let's put that on there, example to try. So keyword heart attack. Yep. Maggie says this is something we want to capture in our authorities group, how different aspects of authorities are working in Evergreen. Precisely. So I've captured this here. Send to authorities working group. Let me say not send to, because we're here now, aren't we? To explore, but then the authorities working group. Okay. Yep. It is a great example. Thanks, Janet. We will, at the very least, document what's going on. Because that just is a very, very brief update of what's going on in the authorities working group. The approach for the last 6 months of last year and leading into this year has been taking questions like that and then documenting the answers about where we are. Emma says Evergreen, Indiana doesn't have Did You Mean yet, or at least they don't think so. Yeah.
Does anyone have it?
Pines does.
Okay.
That's what I was waiting on somebody to say. Mary said they had to turn it off. For various reasons, a couple of libraries have had to turn it off, and that it just was taking up a lot of processing time, and that's very, very simplistic way to answer that question.
Okay.
But yes, it's been, and Did You Mean is coming out in different phases, and Andrew can speak more to that. I mean, it started with single word search. Yeah, and then there's Mary, it just slowed everything down. But there have been improvements since then to the Did You Mean, again, simple words processing so that it's not as slow as it used to be in newer releases. Oh, it slowed everything down yesterday. That's yesterday. Yeah, on 3.11.2. Okay, let's take that one back and see. Let me open that. Anybody else using it other than Pines using it successfully in this group? Okay. Might just drop that as a note on the listserv and try to get some feedback on how that's going to. We'll just drop that. Let's capture that in notes though. Okay. And
Yeah, I
Andrew,
responded directly to Mary, but just for the general record, when you have a really huge database, it's probably going to take a couple of days post upgrade to chug through all of those like re-indexing things. And some of that depends on how you have it set up. But I know for bigger data sites, some of them have had to. It's taken a little bit because you're building effectively what you're doing is you're building a whole new gigantic index. That's what Did You Mean is going to operate against. That does.
gotcha.
Tie things up while it's in the process of building. But
And I'll just say share experience. Yeah, so share how you're using it there. And we can go back through the history of Did You Mean, like I said, it's being rolled out in phases, being developed in. Okay. And this might even be something we want to do a short demo on some point in the near future. Captured that. Okay. Any other questions I've missed? Let me pop back through to the top. I will say, not to jinx us, that this is the first time in a while I've asked about, did anybody have any Launchpad bugs that they were particularly bothersome, that nobody has said yes. So kudos to the release team of 312 for rolling things out. Kudos to the Evergreen community in general. Kudos to the catalog community for making for responding through Launchpad and continuing those discussions. On the list to draw attention to the various pieces that you're testing, the various things that you're finding. So good job, us. A minute here. Okay. Give myself a little action item here. Wilson, note to listserv about the lit map. Unveiling at the Evergreen Conference. Okay, there we go. Anybody else? If not, we'll wrap up a little early. Our next meeting will be March 12th. The organizing committee, those of you that are here from the organizing committee, will meet between now and then and talk about what we want March to look like and really for the next few months to look like so that we can announce that when we get together in March. So we'll have a plan for the next few months. So thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see you. I'll turn off the recording, but stick around for a while if there are any questions we want to address that way. If not, we will see you in March. Have a lovely rest of this month and into next.